song, "Come to Mexico with us," AB had urged when I hesitated. "It'll be fun." He was right. It was. It was also the trip that changed our lives forever. Up until this point, Selena and I had always been friendly around each other, but professional. I was closer to her older sister Suzette, who played drums in the band and had a warm, wry sense of humor. With Suzette, I was comfortable enough to joke around, but I maintained a certain distance from Selena. Selena was barely 18 years old when I first joined her band, but she was already a seasoned professional entertainer. She had just signed with Capital EMI, which was starting up its Latin division, and had a voice that went right to your heart. Many singers hit the correct notes in a song. Still, they lack something. I don't really know how to explain what it is. Maybe they're singing a song like they're telling you a story. But maybe they should be asking a question instead. Or they're growling when they should be purring. Whatever a song required, Selena could do it all and still bring more. She was smart and picked up lyrics right away. More importantly though, she had a musical range that went from a deep growl to a high soprano, and she could convey raw emotions with her voice. Whether she was singing about love, loss, betrayal, or anger. When Selena sang it, it was always as if she sang directly to you. Everyone who heard her felt that. She had more stage presence and control over a crowd than anyone I'd ever met. It didn't matter that she was beautiful and had a figure that could stop traffic. When my guy friends found out that I was playing with Selena's band, they always teased me about her looks. The first thing out of their mouths was always something about how fine she was. I can't count how many times I heard them say, "Man, how lucky are you? You get to stand right behind her in the band and watch it all going on right there in front of your eyes." Yeah, I'd say. But the important thing is that she can sing. Since joining the band, I hadn't had the chance to spend time alone with Selena. We were always in a group, whether we were on stage, on the bus, going out to eat, if we were amped up after a show, in the studio, or playing video games. Still, it didn't take me long to realize that Selena and I were polar opposites. She was lively and outgoing, and loved to be in the center of attention. Meanwhile, I quietly observed whatever was going on in front, from the fringes, often just listening to music on my headphones or playing my guitar, while everyone else fooled around. It didn't take Selena long to start joking about me being too laid back. Sometimes I'd provoke Selena deliberately just to tease her, and we quickly developed a little comedy routine around this. side saying, "Hello, I'm right here," if I could keep from laughing. She'd act like she was slapping me awake, and I'd pretend to be startled. This got a laugh out of her every time. Selena was always a lot of fun on tour. Besides joking around with me, she would pull pranks on the rest of the band members, challenge us to beat her at video games, or sneak food out of Suzette's hidden stashes of chips and cookies. It was only in Mexico, though, that Selena was truly free to be herself and to act like an independent woman instead of everyone's kid sister. You didn't have to be 21 to drink in Acapulco, so Selena and I were now able to go bar hopping with the rest of the band. She'd stand shoulder to shoulder with me, leaning against me a little, and talking excitedly about which restaurant we would go to that night, or what we might do with the others. Once at dinner, we sat next to each other, and I was conscious of her warm thigh pressing against mine. Of course, I didn't complain about that. On this vacation, beneath the swaying palm trees of Acapulco, I couldn't help but become increasingly aware of Selena's physical presence. Her body enticed me, even though she always wore cover-ups over her bikini. I tried not to stare at her, but I did anyway, watching her out of the corner of my eye when I thought she wasn't looking. A few times I caught her looking at me too. When we were on the beach in the pool, or in the bars, we rented little boats on a cove and sped around. Selena was a daredevil, and she'd get hysterical every time we did this, laughing harder than I'd ever seen her let go. She had a great, contagious laugh, and pretty soon the rest of us would be hysterical too. Now that I was sitting so close to Selena on the plane, I was having trouble catching my breath. It was almost unbearable to sit there and not touch her. The air felt charged between us as Selena kept up the conversation, somehow managing to draw me out emotionally. I ended up telling her about how I first started playing music, my parents' divorce, and my dreams about becoming a rock musician, dreams I had temporarily set aside to play Tejano music. Finally, Selena leaned a little closer and asked about my girlfriend back in San Antonio. "She's fine, I guess," best idea ever. And then we hit another bump, and Selena took my hand as she assured me that everything would be alright. I forgot all about the turbulence. I probably even forgot that we were on a plane. I was too busy freaking out. I was happy, I was scared, and I didn't know what to do next. I just sat there with my fingers entwined with hers, hardly able to speak, my heart pounding. Calm down, I told myself. Lots of friends hold hands. Selena took mine because I was scared that that's all it was. Friends holding hands. Selena must have read the emotions playing on my face, because when she dared to turn and look at her again, when I dared to turn and look at her again, she said, "Is this okay? Are you cool with this?" "Sure," I said. Meanwhile, I was dizzy, breathing in her scent, and inside I was screaming, "Yeah, it's cool." We sat there for the rest of the plane ride, talking and holding hands as if that were something we did every day. That was it. But something had changed between us. When the plane landed, nobody seemed to have noticed anything. Or if they did, they kept it to themselves. Selena and I hugged goodbye, and we did the same with everyone else. The rest of the band drove back to Corpus, but I went directly to my apartment in San Antonio. My girlfriend at the time, and my life as I knew it. I was determined to discount everything that had happened on that flight home from Acapulco as a one-time thing. There was no point in getting involved with Selena, I reminded myself, because her protective father would never allow it. At the very least, it wouldn't be professional behavior on my part. At the very worst, I might lose my job. However, as the days passed between my return from Acapulco and my next tour with Selena in the band, something started happening to me. I began to think about Selena constantly. Her eyes, her lips, her body, her laughter, and feeling anxious to see her again. Part of me hoped that she felt the same way about me, while part of me hoped even more that she didn't, so that we could stay friends and keep playing music together. The first time I heard Selena sing, it never crossed my mind that I would ever play in her band, much less she would one day become my beloved wife. I was playing guitar in the Tejano band, fronted by another young singer, Shelly Laris. Even though Selena lived in Corpus Christi, about 2 hours from San Antonio, she and Shelly had become friends, partly because there were so few women in Tejano at music at the time. One day, Shelly asked me to listen to Selena's new album, Preciosa, and tell her what I thought. I looked at the album cover. Great looking girl, I thought, studying her dark hair and warm brown eyes. I flipped the album over and saw a picture of the whole band, which included Selena's sister Suzette on drums and her brother AB on bass. The musicians were young and dressed hip for the times, especially for a Tejano group. But pretty cool looking, I said. I told Shelly. She was just nominated for the 1988 Tejano Female Vocalist of the Year. Shelly told me with a trace of envy, Chris about this. She was like, I was never jealous of Selena. They were actually best friends, according to Shelly Laris. But Chris said that he didn't do that, so I guess whoever helped him write the book wrote the envy part, but she was never jealous of Selena, according to Shelly. Anyway, back to the book. Her brother was nominated for Tano Songwriter of the Year. Listening to the album, I knew instantly why Selena y Los Dinos were rising to the top in the Tano world. Selena's voice was outstanding, and this group was adding unique sounds to traditional Tano music. Not that I was an expert. I was new to the Tano world, and in fact, I often felt like an imposter. I was a 19-year-old rock guitarist whose favorite groups included heavy metal bands like Motley Crue and Def Leppard. My initial reaction when my high school friend Tony Laris first tried to convince me to join his cousin Shelly's band was Foot Dragon Resistant. Tano music, a mix of traditional Mexican folk music, polkas, and country western sung in Spanish, sometimes with English lyrics mixed in, have been part of my childhood as a Mexican American growing up in Texas, but it was the only kind of music that I seriously hated. When I was a little kid, I was riding in the car with my grandmother. She'd put Tejano music on the radio, and I'd be in the backseat covering my ears, shrieking, "No!" But Tony had caught me at a weak moment, and despite my dreams about running away to Los Angeles and starting a rock band, I was sharing an apartment with my father, and the only work I could find was shelving books out of the local library. Sorry. Tony's certainty that we could actually make money playing music, even if it was Tano music, at dances and weddings, convinced me to accept his offer. Tony, Shelly, and the band schooled me in songs by Maz, Laura Gonzalez, David Lee Garza, La Mafia, and the Latin Breed. Great Tano groups that had emerged in the 1980s. When I first started playing with Shelly, I couldn't tell the difference between one group and the other. After a few months, though, I got so familiar with the music that I could tell in about 4 seconds of hearing something who was playing it. Tano groups all had their individual sounds, just like the musicians in any other genre. At that time, Tano music was like this big wave building, and we were all on surfboards. We didn't know just how big that wave was going to get, but we were all definitely trying to ride it as far as we could. The new musicians, especially those in Maz and La Mafia, used powerful sound systems and staged their shows with flashy lights. They wore their hair long and dressed in spandex. Tano music was transforming into something fresh. It certainly wasn't the same tired songs that I used to hear in my grandmother's car. And Selena y Los Dinos were clearly unique. I knew as soon as I heard that album that they were pushing the envelope by fusing traditional Tejano music with rhythm and blues, Colombian cumbia, and pop. As I listened to Selena y Los Dinos with Shelly, I read the credits on the album cover, shaking my head when I saw that Selena's brother, A.B. Quintanilla, had not only arranged and produced this album, but had also written a lot of songs. Selena had a beautiful voice, sure, but it was A.B. who first impressed me. I had become Shelly's musical director by default when Tony left the band. A.B. was doing what I fantasized about doing. Someday, as a producer and songwriter. Wow, I told Shelly. These guys are right in our backyard. I can't believe I've never gone to hear them. People say Selena y Los Dinos are going to sign a record deal with EMI Latin, Shelly said. Want to come see them at my house? I have a videotape. Sure, maybe we can cover some of their songs, I said. That night, my friend Rudy Martinez, who played bass with our band, drove over to Shelly's house with me. We gathered around the television in the living room as Shelly inserted a tape into her VCR. The video was fuzzy. It had been shot with the camera on a tripod, but I could tell that Selena was already a showstopper. She had a cute figure. She could dance like no one else, and her voice was incredible. Even seeing Selena on the small screen, I felt her command of the stage. She had the audience standing up and dancing with her, and she worked the stage from one side to the other, exuding energy and charisma. Even if I hadn't noticed Selena's looks myself, Rudy was determined to make me sit up and pay attention. Whenever he thought Shelly wasn't looking, Rudy would nudge me in the side with his elbow while we were on the sofa watching the tape. Check it out, he'd whisper. Yeah, I see her, I said. Oh man, he said. I know, I said. But I wasn't really looking at Selena anymore. To me, she was just another entertainer. I was a lot more focused on watching the band and analyzing the instruments. Afterward, Rudy and I drove home together. Dude, Rudy said, did you see that? Yeah, I saw that. I said, still deep in thought about the music. Los Dinos sounded pretty good. He laughed. No, dude, the chick in the video, she was smoking hot, man. I laughed too, never once imagining that in only a few short months I would be playing guitar in Selena's band, or that I had just seen my future wife on a VHS tape. That Selena looked and sounded so comfortable on stage was only natural, since she had been performing since childhood. Her father, Abraham Quintanilla, was a second-generation Mexican-American with musical aspirations of his own. In the early 1960s, he had sung with a doo-wop band called Los Dinos. Abraham and his group managed to get one hit on a Corpus station. But when they couldn't break into the top 40, Los Dinos turned to Tejano music and played in dance halls. Abraham eventually gave up music to support his wife Marcela and their children by working for the Dow Chemical Company in Lake Jackson, Texas. The thing is, Abraham may have given up playing music, but he never stopped loving it. He may have been going to that chemical plant every day, but he still played his guitar at night after work. Selena would come and sit down to listen. By the time she was 6 years old, she was singing along, and Abraham recognized her talent immediately. As a diversion for himself, mostly Abraham decided to soundproof the garage and form a family band. He taught Selena's older brother A.B. to play the bass guitar. Abraham drafted Suzette, Selena's older sister, as the band's drummer, a move that Suzette fought constantly at first because she thought it was too weird for a band to have a girl drummer. Abraham stuck to his mission, though, and pretty soon the family band was rehearsing for at least half an hour a day in that garage. This hobby still wasn't enough to satisfy Abraham's creative urges entirely. When a friend told him that the town of Lake Jackson needed a good Mexican restaurant, he leased a space and started to serve authentic Mexican food, accompanied by Selena singing with A.B. and Suzette, singing while A.B. and Suzette played their instruments. A.B. and Suzette were already in high school by then and were still resistant to the idea of playing Tejano music, especially since many of the kids they knew from school ate at their father's restaurant with their families. Selena didn't care. She was still just a 9-year-old kid having fun. Business went well enough at the restaurant that Abraham decided to quit his job at Dow. Then the recession hit. He lost everything. Abraham had no luck finding another job in Corpus, so he turned to the only thing he knew, music. He named the family's band Selena y Los Dinos as an homage to his old band, and took any paying gigs he could find between California and Florida. Dance halls, ballrooms, skating rinks, VFW halls, you name it. Selena had to learn to sing in Spanish, intent on having his family make it in the music business that he put those goals before nearly everything else. He was focused on seeing Selena's inevitable rise to stardom come to fruition. By the time Selena was 15, she had appeared on the cover of Tejano Entertainer and was earning widespread notice as that genre's youngest female vocalist. She had released a major hit single, Dame en Beso, written by A.B. and keyboardist Ricky Vela, followed in 1986 by another hit single, A Million to Woman. Despite knowing only a minimal amount of Spanish, Selena not only sang that language, but had appeared twice on one of the most popular shows on Spanish language television, The Johnny Canales Show, and performed in front of thousands of people in Matamoros, the Mexican border city. In 1987, the year before I met her, Selena was crowned Female Entertainer of the Year at the Tejano Music Awards, knocking the previous queen of the scene, Laura Canales, right off her throne. Her father's instinct and drive had been on the mark. Selena y Los Dinos had made 6 increasingly successful albums, and she seemed unstoppable. During that first year with Selena Perez and her band, we did well. We were getting regular shows around San Antonio, and we had even put out an album that featured 3 songs I co-wrote with her. I was really getting into the game, going into the studio and recording with Shelly and acting as the band's musical director. Now that I'd heard Selena y Los Dinos, we started covering their music, and I became a serious fan of theirs. As much as I admired Selena's vocal abilities, however, I was still much more impressed by the stellar arrangements and production quality of Los Dinos, which I attributed to A.B. He was the band's bass player, and he was a good one, but it's no secret that the role of a bassist in almost any band is a supporting one. You have to lie down and hold the bottom, and to give the other musicians the freedom to do what they want, to do what they do. A bass line has to be solid. It's like building a house. You can have the prettiest house on the block, but if the foundation isn't solid, the house will crack and fall. Far more impressive than A.B.'s qualities as a musician were the intriguing ways he produced Selena y Los Dinos, using the newest gear and most complex sounds I was hearing anywhere in Tejano music. I would hear one of their songs and say, "Oh wow, what is that?" For instance, A.B. was one of the first musicians to start incorporating the pop drum machine sounds that were being used by the top 40 English language musicians like Janet Jackson or Paula Abdul at the time. I'd hear those sounds coming out of the speaker while playing an album by Selena y Los Dinos and feel confused but intrigued. This was supposed to be Tejano music, and most of the other Tejano groups were sticking to the traditional folk sounds created by accordions and drums. Even if A.B. did decide to incorporate an accordion sound, he would do it with an electric keyboard. He was also on the cutting edge when it came to sequencing and sampling the mix on an album. Later, after I joined Los Dinos and got to know everyone, I realized that AB was like the Wizard of Oz. He was behind the curtain, working the lights and levers, but in truth, everyone in that band had enormous talent. It was a magical alchemy when they were all together. Until that time, though, the coolest thing I could imagine was to meet AB and ask him how he did what he did. Amazingly, only a few months after first hearing Preciosa, I had my chance. We were in rehearsal one day when Shelly mentioned that Selena was playing in San Antonio that night. We should go check her out, she suggested. Sure, I said, but I was in the middle of a song and didn't really think much about it. When I'm playing music, that's it. I'm focused on playing music and doing nothing else. Toward the end of the day, however, the door to the studio opened, and in came AB with several members of Los Dinos. They chatted with Shelly and her father. I wanted to join them, but I apologized and said that I was still wrapping things up with the band. Hey, no problem, AB said. Don't mind us. We'll just watch. Y'all keep on playing. I didn't know it then, but AB had actually come by the studio deliberately to scout me out. He was looking for a guitar player who could not only play traditional Tejano music, but help the band start covering more commercial rock and pop songs, because their goal was to make a more mainstream English language album one day. I had been working that afternoon on a Pat Benatar song with Shelly's band. Now, with AB and his band members watching, we started the song again from the beginning. After rehearsal, AB invited us to come hear Selena y Los Dinos play in the city, and that was the first time I saw Selena up on stage doing her thing. I didn't pay much attention to the singer. I was too busy watching AB and Los Dinos playing behind her and thinking they sound even better live. There were some other Tejano groups playing that night after Selena y Los Dinos, but they didn't interest me much. I went outside after a bit to get some fresh air and hang out with a group of friends. When I saw AB walking toward us, I broke away from the group and went to meet him. How did you like it? He asked. It was incredible, I said. And that's when AB told me that he had come by our rehearsal earlier that day, specifically to see me on guitar. I wanted to see if what I'd heard about your playing was true, he said, and I really liked what I heard. I nodded, thanking him for the compliment, but I still didn't get what was coming until he dropped it on me. What would you think about playing in Los Dinos, he asked. I'd definitely be interested, I said. My heart was pounding hard. I was imagining how I could learn from playing music with someone as experienced and talented as AB seemed to be. Good, AB said. He scrawled his phone number on a piece of paper and handed it to me. I was more than interested in joining Los Dinos. I was excited. But I had just started working with my friends, Albert and Rudy, in a new band. And I was conflicted about abandoning our Los Dinos. A couple of days later, AB called and said, "Hey, do you want the gig with Los Dinos or not? We need you right now." "I do," I hedged, "but I need to work some things out with the band I'm in now first." The next day I told Rudy about AB's offer and how torn I was. "What?" he asked. "You to join Los Dinos?" Rudy said. I nodded. "Dude, what are you still doing with us then?" Rudy asked. "You mean if he'd asked you, you would have just jumped the ship and left us?" I said, laughing. "I'd already be gone," Rudy promised. The next morning, I called AB and joined Los Dinos. That phone call set the course of my life in ways I never could have predicted. But I guess that's always true in life, isn't it? You never know which decisions you making are going to be the big ones, even when they're seemingly small, as deciding to play a musical instrument or who to sit next to on the plane. Okay, that was chapter 1. I'm gonna do chapter 2 in a separate video because this video is long enough. Thank you guys for listening. Please comment, like, and subscribe if you like. And also, what is your favorite Selena song? I can't think of my favorite right now. I have so many. I think Besitos is my favorite, actually. But yeah, thank you for watching, and I hope you have a sweet sleep.